Good evening, AFTERBUZZers. It's Lim Gonsalves here, and we are doing episode 1 and 2 of American Grit. Do you have it? We'll find out next. Let's get it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey.
See, there we go. There we go. We can get it. Had a little trouble coming up with something, but you know, now I feel it.
Now I feel it.
Now I'm feeling it.
You feel it?
Absolutely.
I think so. I feel it too. I feel it.
There we
I feel
go.
it all in my bones.
In your, that's where
It's in my bones.
See, it's American Grit. That's the only place you can feel it. You got to feel it deep down inside.
It's all about the feeling. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely.
That's all I gotta
Absolutely. Get it.
Yes, it is the feeling. Ladies and gentlemen, as we said before, this is American Grit After Show, the #1 show, after show in America, because it's American Grit. And we got American Grit. My boy.
Damn right.
That's how we get down.
You know?
I'm going to be your host, Lim Gonsalves. I'm excited about the show. This is a new show on Fox. And so far, we're going to cover episode 1 and 2. But I'm not going to cover it by myself because even though I'm awesome and I'm American, I can't do it alone. I got my boy here, Ty Matthews. What's up, Ty?
It's a team effort. How you doing, Lam?
I'm good, man.
See, I am so excited to be here.
Yes.
It's just... It was so last minute, but I'm so excited to be here. I normally do. It's fitting that I'm doing something John Cena centric. I'm a regular host on the Monday Night Raw after show.
Word.
I host the Lucha Underground after show right after this. I myself have been a professional wrestler for 16 years.
Whoa.
So it's something that fits. It's something that fits perfectly.
And what's great is you've been a wrestler, and I was actually in the military for 8
There you
years.
go.
So we
You
got
see?
a great.
It's a perfect team.
Oh my God, it's gonna be awesome! Ah! This is amazing. This is amazing. I'm already excited. I was
Hell
excited
yeah.
before. Now I'm like extra excited.
Hell yeah.
This is how it
See,
goes
we
down.
didn't even get a chance to like get to know each other
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
So this is all happening in real time.
Real
y'all.
time, son. This is how we get down here at AFTERBUZZ. This is how we get down.
Dig it.
All right, so we got 2 shows to cover.
Yeah, we do.
First off, I want to say that I'm definitely a fan of the show.
Absolutely.
I actually got to interview Noah Galloway. Did a one-on-one interview with him, spotlight on here at AFTERBUZZ.
Oh, nice.
And the dude is really, really a great guy. He's a great guy, and I'm actually happy. I mean, we haven't got into it yet, but I see his team was won twice now.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of that goes to show with his motivation, because he's a motivational speaker on top of being, of course, prior military person, military hero, which all of them are, the people that are on the show. So I'm just excited to see that just by itself. And he said that he would definitely come when he's in town. He lives in Alabama.
Okay.
But he will come and he will do the show for us.
Oh, fantastic!
When he's back in LA.
Yeah, all 4 of the Cadre, as they're known, they're all genuinely decorated.
Yes.
Military veterans and heroes and stuff. So it definitely adds this feel of authenticity and of
Absolutely.
of kind of sincerity to the show that makes it that much more compelling.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we got John Cena.
Absolutely, you can't be.
John Cena's awesome.
Champ is here, y'all.
The champ.
The champ is here.
The champ. I think he's a great host. I think he's doing a good job with it.
Definitely.
I really like the show. I think Fox is just as a whole is.
Thank you, Mark. Knew that was should have known it was coming.
Yeah. Engineer Mark on that. On it. He's on it.
Get it.
But yeah, I mean, I think they've been doing some great program lately. So I was excited when the show was coming out. And then, like I said, when I interviewed Noah, and I was just like, oh, I'm sold. I'm
Definitely.
sold. This is going to be good. So speaking of the Cadre, of course, John Cena is the host. We have Rourke Denver, who's a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL. We have T. Hannibal, who was a former Marine sergeant. She doesn't play. I would not want to get into any type of argument, scuffle with her at all.
We see that in episode 1 right off the bat.
Exactly. We have Nick the Reaper Irving, who is a former Army Ranger. And he got the name Reaper because he had all those kills in like
33 kills, y'all.
Ooh, that's not
no joke.
That made me think of the movie Sniper. I know you saw
Exactly,
Sniper.
exactly.
Yeah, he's not playing. He's not playing. And of course, as I mentioned before, we have Noah Galloway, who is a former Army sergeant, who actually was also on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he
okay.
was on season 20 of Dancing with the Stars, came in 3rd place.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he's done, doing reality TV. He's making his rounds, but when he got the call for this, that's how we found him on Dancing with the Stars, and I think he's a perfect fit.
Definitely.
He's a perfect fit. And of course, The grand prize for this, of course, just to, kind of break it all down. There's 4 teams of 4, so it starts off with 16 contestants, and basically each team is doing missions, challenges, I should say, and then of course whoever comes in first, then the other 3 teams have to send in somebody to what they call the circus. And the bottom line is, at the end of the show, the grand prize is $1 million. So everyone can make up to $1 million for their team.
Right.
So each person is guaranteed $250 if they win. So obviously, if a team of 2 left, then each person's going to get $250. But if you got all 4 teams, you each are sharing $1 million, which is great.
Right.
Amazing. So as we start from the first episode, we have the contestants. They're briefed. The heroes are kind of watching the contestants perform tasks, kind of get an eye who they want to pick. They discuss that, and then we get introduced to the contestants. When we saw the contestants, did anyone stand out with you right away?
Stood out with me. I mean, I gotta say, Chris stood out right away because we were talking a little bit before the show about how reality shows tend to kind of have their natural villains manifest themselves, and so it certainly seemed like he right off the bat fell into that role. He's a celebrity fitness trainer. He's talking about how average people are basically stupid and lame, and so I really thought like he obviously jumped out at me. Obviously Mark the lumberjack, definitely jumped out.
Big beard.
Exactly. He's
fear the beard.
Exactly. It really seemed like, and I'm sure more will come along the way, but like Chris seemed like the only one that was kind of like not. Everyone else seemed very, very positive and very genuine, and he seemed very comfortable with the role of like, I'm going to push everyone's buttons in this house. And I'm going to have a great time doing it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely stood out to me as well for that. And if you look at him through the whole episode, that's kind of what he was doing. He was playing up that role, and it could have been editing just to kind of edit those big parts.
Right.
But that's what he was displaying. Either way, it's what he was doing. And so that definitely stood out. I was interested to see. It was a hodgepodge of characters, but everyone kind of looked different. Like, it wasn't a type of show where everybody's buff, or
exactly.
You know what I'm saying, or everybody's super. I mean, everybody's fit, of course, because they're going to be doing challenging things. But they come also. What surprised me is they come from vastly different backgrounds. All of them have different experience. These are all civilians, so none of them are actually military. They're doing military things. But in their civilian lives, they all have different, like you're talking about Chris being a personal trainer. We got, another person that's a fitness model. We got somebody else that's a fisherman. Like, they just come from really vast difference, and they all basically are coming to basically show what they can do.
And they mentioned that everyone is impacted by the military in one way or another. Hayes' father served in the military, as we saw in the second episode, things like that. So yeah, like you said, we've got everything from a roller derby queen to, bodybuilders, I mean, to, obstacle course veterans, everyone from every kind of walk of life.
No, I think it's great. So we got one thing that I thought was interesting too, because I was like, when I was looking at the previews prior to the show, I was like, how did someone, get eliminated? So I'm thinking like, is it a situation where, if they lose, and you end up eliminating yourself because it's when you ring out. So I'm like, oh, this even makes it better, because it's not like a Survivor type situation, or maybe some of the other reality shows that have some type of competition aspect. You actually, if you give up, is how you quit. So hence the term American Grit. Who has it? And
so, you're putting people against themselves. Everyone is kind of their own worst enemy.
Exactly.
Because when it gets down to the mental and the psychological game like that, even if their body is breaking down, they're not going to want to ring themselves down. Nobody wants to ring that bell.
No, not at all. Not at all. So we get to the first evolution, is what they're calling it, or challenge, and it's called Ruckup. And so in this particular challenge, they had to carry a log through an obstacle course, and you couldn't have the log touch the ground. And so we start off, and we were talking about Noah's team. Noah's team was the first team to have the log hit the ground. So of course, when that hit the ground, you end up losing some type of, ends up being deficiency for you. Maria from Nick's team, she hit her head really bad.
That was gnarly. God.
That was really nasty. Really nasty. I was like, is she going to be okay?
Yeah, and to her credit, she got right back up and kept going.
She did, absolutely. So we see them going through this entire challenge. And all of these challenges that we'll see are derived from some type of military backing, whether it's Navy SEALs or whether it's, Army basic training. I know this particular one actually reminded me, I was mentioned being in the military when I was in basic training, something similar that we did.
Okay.
With an obstacle course and kind of using team. And also too, the one thing that is great about this and the military as a whole is all about teamwork.
Right.
It's all about teamwork, and you can't do none of these challenges you're going to be able to complete on your own. It's not designed for that. It's designed to who works the best as a team in order to complete the mission.
Right.
And that's what's important. So overall, we get to the end, and Team Noah is the one that wins. And so we found out that the losing team has to go to the circus, where, again, someone has to ring out. So we get to the deliberation, kind of how, someone is picked. And how this works is the cadre, they actually get to pick or are instructed to pick someone to go into the circus. So my question to you is, when they were picking their people, and this is the first time, so I'm like, how are they, figuring this out?
Right.
There's got to be some kind of strategy. What were you thinking as far as when they looked at the strategy as far as picking their people?
It's interesting because I was surprised by just the process in itself. I didn't think, because we saw the cadre and they were able to kind of talk to their team and get their thoughts on it before they picked someone, which I thought that it was going to be up to the cadre themselves, just sending someone in without discussing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting. What I thought was kind of interesting when I saw Rourke's his Viking council, as he says it, he talks about how it's all about brutal honesty.
Right.
But everyone sort of had the same answer, like, yeah, I think if it's something I'd be good at, I'd volunteer. Well, of course you would volunteer.
Yeah.
If it's something I'd be good at, yeah. If not, maybe not. It's like, all right, we're not really getting anywhere with this.
It's not going to work.
So I thought it would have been maybe a little interesting to see people get sent in kind of unknowingly.
Blindly?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it definitely would have been shocking.
Right.
I think, though, what this does is, and again, that's what I'm liking about this show as opposed to other shows similar to this, is that the discussion is made and everyone that is going in kind of feels good about going in.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense to send somebody in that's scared or feels that they can't do it because they're not going to perform.
Exactly.
But if somebody's like, yo, send me in, I can do this, or, whatever you want from me, I got it, type situation, that's the person that you want to go in, and that's the person that's going to do well. I thought it was interesting because, when we see like Lisa, she's talking during the election, she said that her husband, she was talking here, wasn't attracted to her because of her weight. And so she then became a bodybuilder, and that's how she became, the person that she was. And I thought that was interesting too, because at first I was like, wait, he's not happy with her?
That's what I thought. Right?
I'm like, I don't know if that's good.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know about the story. Yeah.
But for her, it was like motivation for her. And she kind of spun it in the sense like, he loves me. He just wants me to be better, feel better about myself.
Right.
And that's kind of how I took it.
And yeah, what you're saying about kind of, it makes sense, sending someone in that wants to be there, that wants to help the team. And I think that speaks to an overall kind of arcing theme of positivity throughout the show.
Right.
Even when people are dropping logs and they're getting penalized, you get the cadre saying, like, as a sniper, sometimes you miss shots, you just got to keep going.
Right.
Noah's talking about, it's sometimes you slip up, you just can't look back. And so it keeps fostering this atmosphere of positivity.
Absolutely.
That keeps driving everyone forward.
Absolutely. And it's all about motivating.
Right.
It's all about motivating your team to be successful, and basically if you go in, to come right back out.
Sure.
And that's the bottom line. We see Chris kind of going on T situation because of the way when they were doing the challenge, the Ruckup challenge, and how, she instructed him not to use the ropes with the log. And so he felt like that was bad leadership, and he was basically trying to call her out, and backfired.
And so, okay, so I'm interested what you thought about this whole thing, what you thought about this whole kind of Chris versus T dynamic that we saw playing out over the course of the episode. Because I think we saw everyone sort of going in on Chris, like, it's disrespectful, and like calling her out, things like that. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a situation, and this can play, regardless of the military, just in real life, when you look at your job and you have a supervisor and things of that nature. No one is perfect, number one. Secondly, it's a situation where if you have a disagreement or something like that, it's always best to go and do a one-on-one situation with them.
True.
Be like, hey, this is the situation. This is how I feel. in the military, I'll tell you this: it doesn't matter a lot of times how you feel. It's like, this is how it is.
Right.
So sorry.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times, when you get into like battle type situations or war type situations, sometimes you have to make a split second decision, and it may not be the best decision. But the bottom line is, you have to honor the decision that your commander has given you.
True.
Because you're a team, and he's leading, or he or she is leading the team. So I think in hindsight, it probably wasn't the best decision because everyone else used the ropes and they did better. But the way he called her out in the group, it was disrespectful.
Right.
And I think that's the bottom line.
Exactly. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he was being obviously brash and kind of hostile and confrontational about it. That being said, I think there was something to be said for just the brutal honesty of it, because I don't think anyone else there, and maybe because it was disrespectful, but I think it was interesting that he just right off the bat just said, look, I think you were wrong. And I think there was maybe something to be said for that.
You mean like something positive?
Yeah.
The fact that he stood up to her.
Not, and I wouldn't even call it stood up to her, but said like, look, I think you were wrong to lead us that way, because she posed the question to the group, what did you take away from that?
Right.
And he straight up said, I think you were wrong. And while I do think he was a little bit overly maybe prickly about it, I thought that it was interesting that he was outright kind of brutally honest about it. And in a weird way, and maybe it's just like the wrestler in me like gravitating towards heels, and he's the natural heel of the show. But it was compelling to me watching that dynamic was compelling
kind of unfold.
Yeah,
I mean, it of course it makes for good TV.
Sure, of course.
And that's what we want to see. We want to see, you know, as a viewer, you know, these type of reality shows, a lot of times the drama and the you know, confusion and stuff like that is what it's like, oh, what's going to happen next?
And not only that, but him calling out Maria for humble bragging and for being a fake expert as well.
He was calling out everybody. He was calling everybody. It didn't matter. No one was safe.
And it 100.
And to be honest, I didn't mind the whole Maria situation.
Sure, exactly.
Just because she kind of deserved it, and it was just like, what are you doing?
Well, and I love when she tries to cry about it to Goldie, and Goldie's having none of it. Shuts it down.
Nothing. I still think, though, when it came down to, you know, when he was talking to T, I think she would have received it better, and then it would have been more beneficial to the team if he would have put her to the side and was like, yo, I think, you know, you made the wrong call or whatever, and then she could have explained herself, and she wouldn't have felt like she was put in a corner, and her leadership challenge. Because at the end of the day, if you challenge the leadership and you're trying to say this leadership is faulty, then what it does with the team members is like, oh, well, maybe she's not a good leader.
That's true.
Maybe we shouldn't listen to her.
That's true.
So it's dissension in the ranks.
Just undermining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's something that, you know, probably should have been done a different way.
Sure.
You know, just in the situation. But nonetheless, you know, Chris is playing that role. And that's what he's doing. Chris don't care. That's what he's doing. So we get to the circus and we find out who gets sent in. So Nick ends up sending in Jim, who happens to be the oldest member that's there as part of the challenge. T sends in Chris, no brainer.
Of course.
I knew that was happening. I absolutely. Once he opened his mouth, I was like, oh, bro, you're going in.
You're done.
You're going in. That's what's happening. You're going in. And not necessarily because he's weak or bad. It's just like, we need to teach you a lesson.
Sure.
You need to eat some humble pie.
And she straight up says that.
Exactly.
Like, that's how he's going to learn.
Exactly. And then Work sends in Goldie. And I thought it was an interesting choice for him because Goldie's very small, petite woman. And these are, you know, he's sending her in up against Jim, who's, you know, muscular guy, Chris, muscular guy.
Right.
And then it's this little girl and little woman, and I'm just like, is he doing it because, you know, she's weakest and maybe he wants to get rid of her? You know, if he gets rid of her, he's like, I was trying to figure it out, but I actually, once it was done and I saw the outcome, I was like, oh, he knew what he was doing. And because he was looking at her heart. And the whole time, what I did like about what he was doing is he was supporting her. And I think that is what speaks volumes when you see your someone who's leading you actually supporting you in a challenge. They're there right there with you, as opposed to being off to the side, like, I hope you do well, you know.
Right.
And that's, you know, and that's kind of customary of the military, you know, and seeing how that works. And I think that that's dope that he did that. But at first I was like, why is he trying to get rid of her?
Risky. It was risky because Jim, even at 53, is a former SWAT team member.
Right.
So he's, you know, he's got it. Chris obviously being a fitness instructor. Physically looking at it, it was definitely a risky move, but it was an interesting move, and coming from obviously a genuine place.
Sure. And it could have been a situation where he was like, well, I'm gonna put her in, but I'm going to support the heck out of her and kind of see what she's made of.
Right. Yeah, it could have been both.
It
Yeah.
could have been that situation because these challenges, and we look at these people and it's like, yes, these are physical challenges, but they also are mental.
Right.
You know, and they play with your mental, and you have to be mentally strong. And if you're not mentally strong and just physically strong, we see what happened to Chris. You still can, you know, go tap out.
Exactly.
You can still tap out.
And I think on a long enough timeline, we will see that where people get sent in kind of as a sacrifice.
Sure.
It sort of has to.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Challenge starts. So it's this obstacle course, and we find out in the second episode that it's going to be the same obstacle course, but the ending is going to be different.
The endurance test will be different.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Every single time. So in this particular time, they go through the obstacle course, they come back, and the endurance is holding this sandbag, and you have to hold it and they ended up holding it for an hour, and then after the hour was done, because nobody tapped out, then they had to do it with one arm to see who was going to last.
And you couldn't switch arms. You had to pick one arm to keep it there
for the rest of the time.
And the whole time, Chris is playing the mind games that you knew he was going to. Just talking all sorts of mess. Getting in their heads. Like, I love even when he got picked, even when he picked him, he gets like in Jim's face.
Oh yeah, that's right. And he's like, Jim was like, if this was somewhere else, man, I would have knocked you out.
Exactly.
He was just doing too much. And even John, you know, when he did his one-on-ones with him, he even told him, he's like, yo, you need to chill out.
Yeah.
He was scolding him for how he went in, you know, on T and all that kind of stuff. It was not cool. So he was just doing way too much.
Right.
He was doing way too much. And it bit him in the butt.
Yep.
It bit him in the butt because they get down to the end. They're holding it. They each are holding it with one arm. And, you know, I was just talking about Goldie, and she was focused.
Yeah, she was
focused, and her, like I said, her leader was right there with her. He was supporting her, and I love that. He was right in her ear. He was like, you got this. Do it for your children. You know, you got to do this. And he was just kept motivating her. And I think if he didn't do it, she might not have been able to do as well as she did.
Right.
So bottom line, Chris is the one doing all that crazy stuff, but he drops the bag.
And I was really surprised because throughout the whole thing, I couldn't tell when he was really suffering or when he was just putting on an act.
Right. Because he was doing so much. He was so crazy with it. I think it started off as an act.
Right.
And I think as it progressed, he's like, oh wow, this is really hard. Like, I didn't think I was ready.
Right.
Yeah, he totally blew that. And to be honest, I mean, I think he deserved, you know, what he got because of how he was acting with everyone else. And you could tell that, you know, it was just, he didn't grasp the team aspect of what this was going to be doing.
Right, exactly.
And I think if he did win, then it might have even been worse. Like, instead of being...
It would have created a monster.
You know what I'm saying? It might have created... Like, I went in, and now I'm good. Because now we found out in the second episode that you can't send somebody in again for a second time.
Yeah, there can't be consecutive circuses. Yeah.
So he would have had to. So, anyway, we get on to episode 2. And so... It starts off in episode 2 with K-Joy having frostbite. And K-Joy is part of Nick's team. And so that was kind of crazy. I'm like, oh my, you know, they're already
wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, exactly. Just right out the gate.
Frostbite.
And of course, you figure with what they're doing in the elements that they're in, there's going to be a lot of injuries.
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of injuries happening. There's going to be a lot of people probably getting sick. Like, it's crazy, you know, what they're doing, the stuff that they're doing, the elements that they're in. So this stuff is bound to happen. But I was really surprised that right out the gate.
Exactly. And that's why it's interesting to see people, you know, we talked about people being from all sorts of walks of life.
Right.
K-Joy being a yogi, she's kind of like, that's her wheelhouse, is this mental fortitude.
Yes.
So getting through stuff like this is kind of like her MO, you know?
And she talks about that too, saying that I'm the most mental tough person here. And so the toughest mental, I can't even talk right here. I'm the baddest.
Yeah,
that's what she
really.
She was the baddest, son.
Exactly.
All right, so we get into this evolution. And so this evolution is an obstacle course across a beach to obtain 3 paddles, and then whoever gets them all first is the winner. And so how this works is basically they had to, again, work together. They had to get across. So it starts off, they had to get the whole team over the wall. So that's the first aspect. So everyone has to get over the wall. Then the second part is they have to dig a tunnel, under a log. And so everyone has to be able to fit under that tunnel, you know, and go under. The third portion of that is that you have these 2 paddles that were tied up. You had to untie both paddles and then go to their boats and then basically go to another destination where the third paddle locked in a box.
Right.
And so we see, unfortunately, starting off, Team T is struggling.
Right.
And, you know, they're down a player.
They're already down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though Nick's team is down 1-2 because Cadre had to sit out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He did. So
Exactly.
So it wasn't because, you know, they had 4 or someone else had 4. They had 3. But again, they're probably also reeling from the fact that they know they're missing somebody.
Right.
So it's a mental thing at that point. And so, and then we see Maria. She ends up falling awkwardly off the wall and kind of hurting herself. And we find out later that, you know, she kind of complains about that.
Right.
And then we have Team Noah in first place. You know, they got Claire, the fisherman.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. Noah actually asked her to be in charge, and she took the reins, and she, you know, started leading them out. The fourth part is they have to break the key out of, so there's a key. They would break it out of a block of ice, or if they wanted to, they could take the box and then carry the whole box.
And just add an extra 100 pounds to their
100
boat.
pounds to the boat. And so for the teams, if you had a team of 3, that might have been an option, a good option. If you had a team of 4, really shouldn't do it because it was just going to weigh you down too
Exactly.
much. So Nick and Rourke's team actually decided to take the whole case. T's team, they decided to break the ice.
I love on Noah's team seeing Mark the lumberjack just go to town on the block
He was
of
loving
ice.
that. He
And
was loving
he says
that.
it straight up. He was like, "You want something smashed? I'm your guy."
I'm your man. You know, he was going in. He was loving that. That was right in his wheelhouse. It was perfect for him.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we see that Team Noah wins again, second time.
Right.
They got it, and he's ecstatic, and he's like, "Y'all making my job easy."
Right.
What was interesting though is Team T. They were in last place and ended up coming in second. So they made up time because they ended up breaking the ice, and it helped them to kind of get past because the other 2 teams had the extra 100 pounds. There.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the mental win that they needed.
Correct.
Even if they didn't win the whole evolution, just coming in second was enough.
Absolutely. They needed that so bad.
Yeah.
They needed that so bad. And it was kind of crazy. I felt bad for Rourke's team because he was the Navy SEAL.
Right.
And
And it was designed for Navy SEAL.
And I'm like, his team comes and laugh. They're like feeling bad. Like, man.
Yeah.
This is terrible. You know, and I'm glad he had to talk with him because, you know, afterwards he's like, look, you know, I don't care that, you know, this was a Navy SEAL challenge. You guys came in last. Bottom line is I always want you guys to do your best.
Right.
And as long as you're doing your best, then I don't care. You know, if you come in last and you did your best, then that's what it is. So don't get down on that part. And I think that was good. I think that was good. And that's when we find out also that, again, you can't send in the same person into the circus that you sent in last time.
Right.
Can't be consecutive.
So Jim and Goldie are quote unquote safe this week.
Correct. Maria starts talking about the pain on her leg, and then she actually breaks down and talks about wanting to go home with the kids. What did you think? Do you think it was kind of an act?
I think so because this has happened in reality shows before where someone makes it and then immediately they realize like, maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be. Like, oh, my ankle's really hurting.
Oh, it hurts.
Really hurting.
It hurts.
And Cam, my boy Cam, my fellow pro wrestler, Cam, he knows right off the bat.
Yeah.
He's like, look, he knows they can't be messing around with that.
Right.
Cadre's dealing with frostbite.
Right.
You know, she's dealing with this now. It's like, how are we going to go into the circus?
Exactly.
You know?
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I think she was playing it up too. I do think she missed her kids.
Right.
And I think it was an opportunity to kind of play it up to see like, well, maybe I can go home, or a situation where like I'm missing my kids, but I want to do this. So, but I don't want to go in injured,
right.
You know, type thing. So I think she was playing it up more than what it was. But
do you think we'll ultimately see her stick around?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think anybody's gonna have a moment.
Right.
You know, you have a moment when you're there. You're going through these extreme challenges, and you know you have children, and she's the mom. She's the no excuse mom. That's her tagline.
Exactly. Yeah. Her
no
photo
excuse
went
mom.
viral.
Right. Exactly.
And what I love about shows like this, and especially shows with this kind of sense of sincerity, is that we see these individual character arcs. We see individual people kind of grow and transform. Right. And I think we're going to see that from her. I think she's going to start the show as kind of whiny, kind of, you know, bragging, things like that. Exactly. And I think we're going to see her really turn 180 by the end of the season.
Interesting. Early prediction.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we get into, we find out what the endurance test is. And so it's called the Ice Cube. The same obstacle course as we mentioned before, but after this time, after they finish, they have to do 10 burpees and then submerge in ice water and repeat until someone quits.
Just until failure.
Yes.
And that's nuts. I wasn't expecting that at all.
So we see them both, and the 3 that are chosen are, where are we at? So we have T sends in Brooke, Rourke sends in Hayes, and then Nick sends in K-Joy. So that's who ends up getting sent in. And I figured Nick was going to send in K-Joy only because when he talked to her, she was good to go.
Right.
And so I felt like mentally she was tough. So they end up going in. They do the obstacle course. They come back. Hayes actually gets to the platform first. She gets a little bit of a break.
Yeah, she gets to sit out the first 2 rounds of submersions and burpees.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brooke gets there second. She gets to sit out 1 round.
K-Joy comes
and
in
then
last.
poor K-Joy just like
she goes right in.
And that's the thing with the circus is that the last person to get to that endurance platform has to just go right into it with 0 break.
Exactly.
That's absolutely nuts.
It's tough. It's tough. So they go in, start doing the thing, 10 burpees. Excuse me. They go in, come out, 10 burpees, and it just repeats. We see Brooke struggling. In my opinion, she was struggling the most.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's exhausting just looking at it.
My gosh.
Just watching it is like...
Yo, I'm looking at him. I'm like, are you serious?
Right.
I'm tired.
Exactly.
I'm not doing anything but sitting here watching you all.
And just you see their faces as they go into the ice and come out.
Agonizing.
Like,
Agonizing. I will say, though, looking at the Marine daughter, Hayes, she was going. She was good to go.
Laser focused.
She was like, I got this. I got this. And her person was right there with her. So Brooke is struggling, and then all of a sudden she gets up after the last time she was dunked in and like kind of looks around, and her, T is like, yeah, come on, I got you. Goes down.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh. My gosh. And so she just, gave out. Her body gave out on her. The one thing is, and I think we're going to see this more with the show as it continues, is that she did not give up. And that's the one thing that they're looking at. And even John said, they ended up having to carry her out, of course, and she had to get wrung out because, she couldn't complete. But his whole thing was like, she didn't quit. And he's like, if you don't quit, then you've won for yourself.
Exactly.
You've
and
won
it's
for yourself.
Everyone in their own separate interviews, everyone's saying, I mean, hell, Jim says like,
Exactly.
I want to go out like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because that's the honorable way to go. That's the honorable way to go. And she went, didn't give up, and basically, like I said, until her body gave out. And so the unfortunate part is Team T ends up losing another player. So that's the part that I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
It's a two-person
team. So
yep, it's just Tony and Yvette now.
Yeah. So let's we got a few minutes left. Let's get into predictions. Let's do
predictions. Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yes. All right. So my man.
Yeah.
Ty, what do you think going forward? We kind of talked. You gave a little bit of prediction going forward, but what do you think going forward is what we're looking at?
I think Tony and Yvette are gonna stick it out for a couple weeks as this 2-person team.
Okay.
I don't think it'll necessarily be a clean sweep for T's team just right out the gate.
Sure.
I'm thinking we may see someone from Rourke's team go next week. We saw that they weren't necessarily the best in terms of cohesion and communication. We've got Mark the Machine on that team, who's a pro bodybuilder, but his size and his power may actually hinder them.
Yes.
He says in the first episode he's not built for endurance.
Right.
He's basically built for show.
Oh, absolutely.
So that may kind of be to their detriment. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Tony and Yvette are going to stick it out for a while. Maybe not till the end, but for a while.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking one of the blue teams going next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good prediction. I will say I agree with you on T's team. I think that I just can't see them going out, losing another person.
Sure.
Not to say that they'll win per se, the challenge, because I think that'll be difficult.
Right.
Because everybody has, their full teams. But I don't see them going out. I see them having heart. The one thing is, I see with Nick's team, he's got 2 injuries. 2 big life injuries. And so
really Cam's the only healthy body on that team anymore.
So I think that they're going to be the struggling, factor. And I think one of their people, his team is going to go.
Okay.
One person on his team, simply just for the sake of injuries.
Right.
So it'll be interesting how that plays out.
Do you think he might sacrifice one of the injured people to the circus?
I don't know. He seems like the type of person that is just, if like you said about the injury and the guy's battle buddy got shot in the head and he's still, I'm like, yo, this dude is not playing. Like every story he comes out with is like, so when I was shot at 9 times and then I went and I grabbed the bolt and then I took the bolt above my head. Like, I'm like, every story is like life threatening. I'm like,
shot
yo,
ain't nothing for
dude.
Nick.
So
for the
I don't
Reaper.
think it matters, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, but I'm excited. I'm excited.
Let's do it. Got a lot to look forward to.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our show.
Yeah.
We want to thank you. We got through the 2 episodes. We did it. We made it through, but make sure you join us. Make sure you also comment. We want to know what you think about the show. Brand new show. What do you think about the host? What do you think about what's going on with the Cadre. What do you think about the contestants? We want to hear about it all. We also need your ratings. 5 stars is what we like. Everything else doesn't matter. That's how we get down. Make sure we'll also have time to have the live chat out next week, so we can kind of communicate with you and let you know what's going on and see what's going on in real time.
Yeah.
I've been your host, Lim Gonsalves. You can find me at The Poet Saint on social media everywhere. Where are you at, Ty?
You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at Ty Matthews PMA. You can find me on the Monday Night Raw after show and the Lucha Underground after show pretty much right now. The second I leave the studio, Lucha Underground, get it. And watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Saturdays, 4 p.m., KDOC. It's cool.
Do it all.
Get it.
That's what he said. We out.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.